All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, November 26th. We have 5 NBA games to dive into in today's video. They are part of the NBA Cup. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. Talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, keep an eye on the final plays, so what I'm actually rolling with myself. If you are interested, that will be in the pinned comments, so make sure to keep an eye on that. In terms of how we did yesterday, not exactly the best. It's another one of those nights where I'm going to tell you the X's and check marks look a little bit worse than it is. That Kings money line, we kind of split out 0.8 of a unit, so 0.8 of a unit there on the Kings, and they let me down. They looked okay for I don't know, what would I say, 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden the third quarter Thunder started to pull away, and the fourth quarter they stayed away, and I'm like, all right, I guess it was a bad look indeed. And the Kings feel like that too. I think it was it Malik Monk or someone said this team needs to have a conversation because they've been up and down. And I've been talking about that too. For now, the Kings are probably going to be on the DNB list. I'm not touching them for a little while, but I will take pride in that Zubac play, over 14.5 points as well as his 25.5 points plus rebounds. I think in the first half he had 17 points and 7 rebounds. So I really liked that because the Celtics started to pull away in that game, and I was like, oh boy, we're so lucky that he did some damage in the beginning. Magic and Hornets, yeah, one of the worst calls of the year. So like I said, it's not as bad as it looks, but in terms of some of the calls there, his brain just did not seem to be functioning yesterday. But in terms of what's good about yesterday, and the good vibes can start now, the ride of the day, clap it up, pumping some crowd noise. Iggy hits the second ride of the day of his in a row. Ja Morant over 25.5 points plus assists. Ja Morant finished, last time I looked, he had 31. Let's see what Ja Morant finished with. I don't even have that off the top of my head here. Ja Morant last night finished with 22 and 11, so 33 points plus assists in his return. He had missed 8 straight games, so shout out to Iggy for the call there. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, all you have to do is use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me your favorite play. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. I tweet it out right here. I also post it on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays, and you get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays and let you go on a streak here. So Iggy, looking forward to seeing what you drop today. If you lose, we do got to talk about it. You get the shout out, but we drop the womp womp like I've already taken today. So it's a good little community builder there, and I've been doing it for a long time, and honestly, it's one of my most proud and favorite things we do, because I love seeing some of these plays that you guys come up with that I don't even think of myself. You know what I mean? So drop your favorite plays with that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments, and let's jump into the slate. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's try and bounce back after yesterday. I think it's a bounce back day. When we have these smaller slates, we've been pretty good this season, but this NBA has been a ride so far. We have a bunch of days in a row where we streak, and then we have some middling days, and then yesterday is kind of a middling day. Hopefully we jump right back up, but hey, you know what? You're entitled to take whatever you want from this video. Take it with a grain of salt. Ride with anything. You're in control of your own self. Let's go ahead and jump into this. We're starting off with Washington taking on Chicago here. Washington, 4.5 point dogs at home. That total is 245.5. Washington coming off of a bunch of losses in a row. They've lost, I think 10 straight losses, if not more. Coming off of a loss to Indiana, 115-103. Chicago, 4-6 in their last 10. They've been kind of up and down, but one thing that I will say here, Chicago's been shooting a lot of threes this season. Washington, not exactly the team to stop three so far. So within the last 10 games here, Chicago, 5th most above the break threes attempted per game over the last 10. 6th most corner threes. And like I said, Washington not stopping a nosebleed out there. So I do think that that's a huge advantage here for the Bulls, obviously. One thing I'll mention, though, is Washington can score at the rim. This has been a Bulls team that's been very, very bad at stopping points in the paint. So if that's going to be the case, this could be a close game. But I don't think 4.5 is a big number to give Washington. You know what I mean? We could have a close game and the Bulls still win by 5. So I'm going to lean towards the Bulls in this spot. Their offense is definitely more efficient. They have a decent offense so far this season. They've had their ups and downs. Hell yeah, but a little bit less of up and down than Washington, who's been a lot of downs. And not to mention, Jordan Poole listed as a game time decision here. He didn't play in the last game there. So yeah, if he doesn't play in this one, I like Chicago even more. From a total perspective, I sit here and say, wow, that is an awfully high total, right? Like any normal basketball fan would. But you do have Washington, who is the 5th fastest paced team in the league, against Chicago, over the last 10 games, against Chicago, who is the 3rd fastest team over the last 10 games. Both teams don't play much defense. I can't get to 246. Like, that seems like a very, very high number. So I'm going to lean under, but I'm telling you right now, from my mouth to your ears, I like the under. I don't love it. This defense on both sides is so bad that these teams can stumble into, 120 apiece easily, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we just need a couple more points here and there. So I don't think I can pull the trigger on a 245.5 over, so I by default lean towards the under, but I don't know if I have the cojones to pull the trigger on an under with these two teams, the pace they play at, and the defense, so it is kind of what it is right there. Now, from a player prop perspective, I do have a couple that I like here. They're both the same type of prop, a 3-point made prop. Ayo Dosunmu here, he hasn't had, obviously, the same season as last year due to the fact that they kind of switched things up and whatnot, but I don't necessarily mind his over 1.5 3-pointers made just because we're getting such good odds on it. You could see Washington, now he's technically, I guess, a shooting guard playing a lot of 3 because, the Bulls have gone small, hence why they actually don't really stop points in the paint all that well. But overall, Washington not all that great at stopping the 3 ball. Last time he played them, he had 2. The time before that, he had 4. On those attempts, though, what I will say is that was 7 in 4 attempts. This season, you can see he's averaging right around 4 attempts. So we need him to have a good shooting night. 50% from 3 at, if he only shoots 4 to make 2 of these. But for plus 130 against a bad defense like this, I don't necessarily mind it. If this was like a minus 110 play, I wouldn't even consider it, but I don't mind that plus 130. Then we move on to the same prop, 3-pointers made here for Zach LaVine, over 2.5. He's hit it in 4 straight games, 7, 4, 4, and 3. And again, this is a bad Washington defense when it comes to threes. You can see it's 22nd ranked right there, 37% on the season from 3. Zach LaVine has the attempts in his last 5 games here, and this is including one in which he only had 3 attempts. He's averaging 7.6 attempts. If you strip this one out, it's obviously going to be a little bit more than that. I don't necessarily see them having an answer for him out there either. So yeah, I like him to hit 3 threes tonight as well. There's a few more props that I'm going to be looking at, so make sure to keep an eye on those final plays, because if I do add a final play that we don't talk about here, I'll write a little blurb about it on the blog post that we post our final plays in, because I think with that total being at 245, there's got to be some room for some more props, right? One you might think of, and I kind of looked at in terms of Vucevic or something. That could be the case as well, though his numbers have been high. So yeah, just keep an eye on those final plays. We might try to stir up something else here. Granted, I will admit, this isn't one of the, this is maybe the worst matchup on the board. So do we really want to press ourselves into this one after having a red night last night? We'll see. We've done crazier things, but I will throw that out there. All right, real quick, before we get to the rest of the games there, we're talking about Miami next, and Sleeper has a Jimmy Butler 0.5 points line. If you haven't tried out Sleeper Picks yet, you are missing out. It is a great DFS app that is available in most states. Go ahead and check it out. I have a link in the description and the pinned comment, so find the link down below. I'll also put it with the final plays over on the Guy Boston Sports site. You get this freebie, and they have an amazing, amazing sign-up bonus going on right now. So go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks, guys. Again, that link will be down below. Go take advantage of this Jimmy Butler square. Has he had an up and down year? Has he been banged up? Sure. But 1 point gets the job done for this one. Go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks. Miami minus 2.5 here at home, taking on the Bucks. Giannis listed as a game time decision, and this is a tough one because you look at these two teams and you're like, oh, well, the Bucks should be favored and whatnot, but clearly that isn't the case. Miami's won 3 of their last 4 games. Now, Indiana, Philadelphia, I do give them the Dallas credit win, right? Those are the 3 wins. Milwaukee, on the other hand, has won 4 straight games. Houston, Chicago, Indiana, Charlotte. Not exactly the most impressive roster. I think that Houston one probably is the most notable, but I think the wrong team's favored here in this spot. If Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think I nailed that. I think if he plays, if he doesn't play, then yeah, I can totally see why this is a Miami spot. They're at home. It's the in-season tournament. A lot of factors here could point to Miami. But to me, with Giannis on the court there, I feel like they are kind of starting to figure it out. And that's what I've said all year about, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, a couple of these other teams where it's like they have so much talent. They've been good in the past. At some point, they're going to click and whatnot, right? And I think Milwaukee is starting to. I'm not trying to say that they are, because they definitely have some weaknesses, right? Like Charlotte almost won that game against them. They barely they started to pull away from Indiana, and Indiana started to stink it up, and that's why they won, right? The Bulls I give them credit for, and then Houston they won by like 1 or 2 points. So this Milwaukee team hasn't separated themselves yet, but this could be the game in which they do. So yeah, I'll lean towards Milwaukee in this spot. When you look at how this Miami defense has been so far this year, they've been up and down, which has kind of been the Miami team mantra, right? They're 7-7 at home. They're 3-3. Like, you look at this team multiple ways. They're just like a 50-50 ball club. Milwaukee, I will throw in, and it kind of hurts my argument for them here, but they are 7-3 at home. Where are they playing today? Oh, in Miami, where they are 1-6 on the road this season. So that is a tough one. I admit that. But Miami here, not all that great. 19th ranked in terms of stopping points in the paint. We know that Giannis and company are going to try and get into the paint, even from 3. Are the Bucks shooting a bunch of threes? No, but Miami 19th in the league in terms of stopping threes as well. They probably are going to win the rebounding battle, but marginally. It's not like Miami's a great rebounding team. And what I will say about this as well is their pace and Milwaukee's pace matches up, so there shouldn't even be a pace mismatch here. So if I think that Milwaukee is going to have an easier time scoring at a pace that they're comfortable playing at, there's no reason for me to kind of turn my eye to them, or away from them. I like Milwaukee here plus 2.5, maybe even on the money line. Now, when it comes to a total here, it's sitting at 225, and this is probably where I give Miami a little bit of defensive credit, because I haven't really done much of that so far, right? I do think that they can slow the Bucks down. When we've seen these two teams play in the past, we've seen some high-scoring games, some low-scoring games, so there's nothing much to go off of, but the last time they played was 123-97. Maybe we see something similar like that, where it gets near 225, right? But doesn't quite get there. So I think both these teams can kind of lock up defensively. And I even, I talked about Milwaukee, offensively, but their defense, they should make it very, very hard for Miami to score in the paint. And Terry Rozier is questionable in this spot, one of the 3 shooters, obviously, for Miami, right? So their 3-point ability today might not be all that, intact. So I'm all over the place here. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but this brain's going. I like Milwaukee. I slightly like the under. It's Milwaukee if Giannis plays. Terry Rozier should play as well, so I'm factoring that in, of course. But give me Milwaukee and the under, all right? I don't know if there's much room for player props in this one either, so we'll probably skip those for now. Next up, Minnesota taking on Houston here. Houston playing some good ball lately. 7-3 in their last 10. They are coming off of a loss against Portland, so maybe we forego looking too deeply into that, because they beat Portland 116-88 the night prior, right? They played 2 against them. And then their only other loss in their last 9 games was against Milwaukee, and it was by 1 point. We just talked about that, right? Minnesota 5-5 in their last 10. They have been good at home at 5-2, and it's worth noting that Houston has been an amazing home team this year. Decent road team, but way better home team. 8-3 at home, 4-3 on the road. So I think that is something that's worth noting, because Minnesota, though they've been one of those up and down teams as well, where you thought that they were going to be a lot better, especially based on how far they went into the playoffs last year. But they're the 11th team in the West right now. But that being said, they're 3-6 on the road, 5-2 at home. So I think they are a better home team. This almost all the numbers here, and this is going to be tough. And I've seen this total move, by the way, so we'll talk about that in a second. All the numbers here almost scream it's a Houston spot, okay? Now, Jalen Green hasn't missed a game yet this year, but he played through an illness last game. He's listed as questionable now. I imagine he'll play. Mike Conley might miss his 3rd straight game, so those are the 2 injuries to note. Everything kind of screams Houston, but it's screaming it so much that I'm like, at the same time, this Minnesota team is so much better than their record would show, than anything they have to prove or show for. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is definitely a better Minnesota team than we've seen. So, as crazy as it is, I'm going to lean towards Minnesota. I know it's not psycho alarm worthy or anything like that, because they're the favorite in this spot. But yeah, I don't necessarily see exactly why Houston is underdogs. Like, there's just a lot going on in this one where I'm like, it seems too easy to take Houston plus a 3.5. Now, we kind of thought this about the Thunder yesterday, and we faded it and looked at the Kings, and look at how that turned out, right? But at least in this spot, we are liking the favorite. So give me Minnesota in this spot. I'll give you some reasons if you like Houston, why you should like Houston, I guess. They like to shoot in the paint. They've been very good at scoring in the paint this year. Minnesota struggled mightily at scoring in the paint. Minnesota likes to shoot the three. Well, Minnesota is going up against one of the best three-point defenses in the league. See, all of these things scream Houston. But one thing I will say is that Minnesota's offense, top 10 efficiency here this season, in the last 3 top 10 as well. And Houston has been getting by on their defense, and I do give them credit for that. But when you think about the teams they've played in their last 5 here, Portland, Indiana, Milwaukee, Chicago, and then they played the Clippers twice, which the Clippers are a defensive team this year. Then they played Washington, Detroit, and then got pummeled by OKC. So one big thing here is that, yes, Minnesota, I think, is better than what they've shown, but also Houston has had kind of a cakewalk of a schedule. Now they're playing a good Minnesota team that knows they need to start winning, and it's the NBA Cup, in which they'll care more about. So Minnesota minus 3.5 is probably a good spot today, at least in my brain. That total now has moved down to 220, which is a huge jump here. I liked the under to begin with because this Minnesota team has been fairly efficient, like I mentioned, right? But they're playing at a bottom 10 pace in the league so far. And Houston does play with a fast pace, but they have the good defense. So if Minnesota controls the pace, great, because I think Houston can play defense, and maybe Minnesota scores less than they normally do in that type of thing, which they're also not scoring all that crazily now. So yeah, I like Minnesota to win this one, win it by 4, but also this not exactly be the biggest high-scoring kind of affair overall. And then a player prop spot that I'm going to take a peek at here is going to be Alpi Sengun over 19.5 points. This is plus 105 over on DraftKings right now. That's where I like it the most. Does he have the easiest matchups? Well, not necessarily. Obviously, Gobert's a great defender and whatnot, but again, this has been a Minnesota team that allows a lot of points in the paint. And Sengun, this line is now down to 19.5. It's been over 20 at times this year. I've seen it at 18.5 today, literally this morning, like an hour ago, so maybe we waited out or something like that, but I think that he can get there today. Last 2 times he's played them, he had 19 points and 15 points. In both of those, he didn't shoot all that well or shoot that much, so if he goes and shoots as much as he's been shooting, which in the last 5 games from here, right, he's averaging 17 attempts per game. I think that he can get there. Last 5 games, he's also hit this in 3 of those 5, and the ones that he didn't, 18, 14, has been right around there. So yeah, I like his spot today as long as the minutes are there. This has been a guy that obviously is a really good player, but he's been getting in foul trouble, but I don't necessarily look at his matchup today as like this biggest foul-esque type of a spot, right? So hopefully that is the case, because obviously Minnesota's going to drive a lot and he will be there, but I don't see Gobert getting the ball much and him fouling him. So Sengun, hopefully if he plays 30 plus minutes or at least 28 plus, we see 20 points out of him, because that's how Houston should be able to compete in this game, kind of down in the rim. All right, Utah taking on San Antonio. This isn't all that much of my favorite matchup on the board either. But what I will say, and I meant to say this earlier in the video, now we're waiting a long time, like 18 minutes in to say it, but I love the fact that we do have some close spreads and good matchups today. Even Chicago, Washington, or this one, Utah, San Antonio, aren't like the best matchups, but they're still worth looking at in that type of thing, right? So I am thankful we don't have like the biggest of blowout potential type games. Obviously, it's the National Blowout Association. There probably will be 1 or 2 today, but you know what I mean, from the spread perspective and where we see it ahead of the game. But anyways, Utah here, underdogs at home. They're coming off of a win against the Knicks, and they won by like 15 points or something. Like, good for them, in all honesty. San Antonio, though, 3 wins in a row. They did okay without Wembanyama, right? So they beat the he played in their last game, but they beat the OKC without Wemby, right? And then they played Utah. So this matchup just a couple nights ago, they played and beat them 126-118 without Wembanyama. So you throw Wemby into the fold here, into the mix. I have a hard time not looking at the favorite in this spot. I mean, again, Wembanyama is obviously a game changer. They played well without him. They beat this team recently without him, and now you just add him to the mix, right? And Utah has been a very, very bad team at stopping the 3 this season, 5th worst in the entire league. And San Antonio, in the last 10 games here, shooting the above the break 3 at the 3rd highest clip in the NBA. Not clip, at the 3rd highest frequency, I should say, right? And then in the corner 3, a top 10 frequencies. They're shooting a lot of above the break 3s, a lot of corner 3s, aka all of the 3s. And even from a points from 3 perspective, they're 11th so far this season. So I think that they should have their way down there in terms of, or up there, I guess you'd say, from a three perspective, to be able to kind of pull away from this one. So in terms of that, yeah, I think that this is a spot in which they should be able to dominate down low. Walker Kessler is back for Utah, so that's a little bit of a body down there, but I like San Antonio down low and from three. In terms of defense, I would say that they're the better defensive team as well by far. So yeah, should be a good spot for San Antonio. They have Wembanyama back. Give me them minus the points. This is also bumped to 2.5, which kind of worries me. It's like moving in the direction that I wouldn't think it would be, but maybe it's because Utah's at home, whatever. I still like San Antonio. Try not to overthink that. This total at 226, right? San Antonio's been playing at a decent pace. Utah's defense isn't all that tremendous. Second worst defensive efficiency this season. So 226, I think I'll lean towards the under. Maybe Utah's starting to figure something out offensively, even though they lost 2 and won 1 in their last 3. 118, 121 in terms of points scored. What I like more is in their last 5 here. Actually, you can just read their last 10. I think I have that up as well. Yeah, last 10, these are points against, right? Least recent to most recent. 126, 123, 110, 120, 113, 121. 116, 124, 126, 106. They played decent defense against the Knicks, but the Knicks also didn't play the best offense, right? So you have a team that's just allowing a bunch of points. They're actually starting to score a decent amount of points. So yeah, give me the over 225.5 I see now in this one. And it's worth noting too, last time they played, I already mentioned it, right? 126 to 118. The time before that, Utah won a close one. I probably should have mentioned that. They've played already a couple times this year. 111 to 110. And then the time before that on Halloween, 106 to 88. So yeah, I think these two teams have kind of changed. Like, remember when San Antonio was scoring a lot at the rim and whatnot? Not the case anymore. Now they're shooting a lot of threes. So yeah, things are different back then. I'd much rather look at that game from, a week ago than the one in October in a sense. So give me the over, as well as obviously, like I said, with the Spurs. In terms of what I like from a player prop perspective, I mean, his line is obviously always so high, but I already talked about it, being able to score inside and outside. There's one guy on the Spurs that does that phenomenally, Victor Wembanyama. I really don't mind his over 25.5 points. I've seen 24.5 for manageable odds as well, which he had 25 last game. That was in, I want to say he played like 34 minutes too, even coming back, right? So he should get the minutes. He's been playing a lot of minutes this year. He did this last time he played Utah. He had 20, or not last time, one of the times so far this year playing Utah. So I think that he should be okay. In terms of threes made, it's over 2.5. One thing that I will say, he had 4 and 6 threes against Utah, and he only hit his points line once. You know what I mean? So this is a spot in which he probably can go out there and hit some threes. His last 5 games, 6, 6, 8, 4, and 4 threes. So Wemby from 3, Wemby points, I do like a lot. All right, guys, before we move into this game, if you're still watching, go ahead and comment 22. You made it 22 minutes into the video, and I thank you sincerely. Not much to say. I don't want to get on a sappy rant or anything like that, because I know some people like them. Some people get annoyed with them. I'll do it when I feel fit. I'm not forcing one here. I am very appreciative of the spot you guys have put me in, but that's all I'll say, all right? Comment 22 if you made it this far in the video. Let's talk Suns and Lakers here. Phoenix, 3.5-point favorites. Again, like I feel like a broken record saying some of these teams have been up and down, but the talent Phoenix has, like, they've been up and down too, and they've been down lately. They've lost 5 straight games. Now, they've kind of gone through a gauntlet. Sacramento, maybe that's not a gauntlet because Sacramento's proven out to be not the best of teams, but OKC, Minnesota, Orlando, and then the Knicks. Like, this team has been going through it, you know what I mean? They are at home here, so that's good to see. The Lakers coming off of 2 losses, but even that was kind of gauntlet-esque. Orlando, who's proven to be a really good team, right? Denver, who has Jokic back there. So this is a tough one, because I do think that this is one of those games, and I always get the hate in the comments for saying this type of thing, but I do think there's an argument to be made on both sides of things, and I mean that. So if you don't like that sentiment, then you know what, it's just where my brain is at, right? Overall, though, in this spot, you look at the injuries, Bradley Beal game time decision, Durant game time decision, Anthony Davis game time decision, all 3 listed as probable, though, so that's obviously a very good thing. These two teams have played already twice this season. Lakers won 1 in LA, Phoenix won the other one in Phoenix. Yeah, I'm going to look at the home team here. Both these teams kind of struggle on the road and are good at home. If Beal and Durant play, give me Phoenix minus the 3.5 points. Now, this total is way up there at 235, and I think it is a little bit too high. We're not giving much credit to defense in this spot, and not that we should. We have the 6th worst and the 5th worst defensive efficiency out there, right? But what I will say is both of these teams play at kind of a very slow pace. Like, surprisingly, the last 10 games, Lakers 19th in terms of pace, and Phoenix 24th. So I know we have a lot of superstars here and a lot of great players, but 235 does seem awfully high to me. I already mentioned they have played twice this season, 123 to 116. All right, that's a high scoring game, right? Obviously an over. But then they played in Phoenix, 109 to 105. Maybe Phoenix at home is going to be playing a little bit better defense. Especially if they're in the game and whatnot. So, yeah, I think I'm going to lean towards the under 235. Do I think it's going to be a low-scoring game like that one I just mentioned, 109 to 105? Probably not low-scoring, but maybe somewhere in the ballpark of like 225, 227, something like that, which is well under this number, you know what I mean? And then a player prop I like in this spot, I can jump into the Outlier screen. Guys, if you want to check out Outlier, I'll have a link down below. You get 7 days free. It's a really, really great tool. But I like Bradley Beal over 14.5 points. This is him on the season, right? So obviously kind of cruising. This is him against the Lakers. So these are the 2 games this season. And you might be like, oh, well, Kevin Durant might be playing. Okay, well, let's say Kevin Durant and Devin Booker play. In Outlier, you could say games with, right? Well, look at that. Both games they played in, he hit the over, barely, but he did. And then still 6 of 7 games in which both of those guys play this season. LA against small forwards / shooting guards, however you want to put Bradley Beal, right? Not all that great defensively. And this is a high total game. Whether or not I like the under or not, you know, it's expected that there's a decent amount of points in this game, and I think that he could be the spot to go out there and kind of focus on, because Booker's line is going to be super high, Durant's line is going to be super high, and then kind of sneaky there, Bradley Beal, a guy that can score multiple ways, right, obviously is going to have his looks, because, again, he is Bradley Beal. I think that he's going to have a good opportunity there because, well, 1, Lakers don't cover that position all that well. 2, he should have some threes, in which Lakers haven't been all that great at stopping this season, but even 3, Bradley Beal has been scoring a decent amount from the mid-range so far for this team this year, which is good to note, right? And from in the paint, which isn't necessarily his forte, but a lot of those, and that's where the Lakers have seriously been struggling. So I think that he kind of fits the bill. Obviously, Booker and Durant are so good that they score from everywhere, but Bradley Beal kind of fits the bill for scoring in this one, and we saw him have 15 points in both of those games against LA. I also don't mind his points, rebounds, and assists either. Last time he played the Lakers, he had 15 points, or excuse me, not last time. 2 times ago, 15 points, 1 rebound, 9 assists, and then the other time was 15 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds. So I like him multiple ways, whether it's PRA, maybe just points plus assists. That could also be one as well. That might be, honestly, a little bit better of a look. I don't have a line for that as of right now. I think I saw 18.5, so I definitely don't mind that, but probably considering his points and points plus assists, and then his PRA in that order, maybe we'd split like a half unit or split a unit on his points and points plus assists. But yeah, that's just because to small forwards, the Lakers allowing the most assists in the league so far this year. But yeah, I like Bradley Beal in this spot. Clearly, I've talked about him forever now. But guys, hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That's all I have for you today. Let's have a good NBA night. It's been a couple days since we had a good one. Just kind of middling. Again, the X's and check marks are all unit dependent. Like last night, technically, what would that have been? A 2 and 4 night, when realistically we were only down like less than a unit, you know what I mean? So kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth, but it's not as bad as it visually looks, which is a silver lining. But nonetheless, guys, we'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.